Hello, hello, hello. Chat room, chat room. Can you see and hear me?
Roy, would you be able to turn your speakers down?
Sound, but no picture.
Oh, wow.
There we go. We've got a picture now.
We've got a picture now. Hello, good evening, and welcome to VTTalk on Vapor Trails TV. Eventually, let's try some titles. And yes, our abject apologies for everything going to hell in a handcart there. Lord only knows what was going on, whether it's the internet pixies or the chickens that we're using for carrying the interwebs just aren't capable of running fast enough, I don't know. But tonight is the follow-up from last week's show when we had Sam and the outgoing vice chairman of ECCA, Rusty, on with us discussing ECCA UK in all its various formats. But tonight we're very, very fortunate to have the two guiding lights. Sam Munroe, right in the middle there. Wave at everybody, Sam, and say hello.
Hello.
And on the left of your screens, it's not Father Christmas, it's Rolligate. The man who is the man who actually put the foot up the backside of ECCA and got it all started ages and ages ago, it seems like now. And to the right of your screen, excuse me, we also have Sav, who will be doing her usual duties tonight and gathering all of your questions together to put to the two esteemed gentlemen from ECCA. If I can start with you, Chris, a question to put to you. It seems like a million years ago that we actually looked at doing this in the first place and talked about it here on Vapor Trails TV. How are you feeling now that it's all been ratified and ECCA actually exists in a proper, formalised, you can see it, you can touch it, you can hear it form?
Yeah, a lot better, I guess. It's actually now really exists after this last weekend, Vape Fest and the AGM. And yeah, I think we're all a little bit relieved about that. And there were some doubts. And of course, we've had a lot of arguments about which way it's going to go. And the AGM meeting was quite good for that. But yeah, we're on the road, so looking good.
That's excellent news. And yourself, Sam, of course, you've now been ratified as the main man, the chairman. What's your feelings about all of that?
Well, I think what I feel good about is the fact that the handcuffs are off as such. As a steering committee, we could have ideas, but we couldn't put them into motion. But now we can put them into motion. And the forums are going to be playing a big part in that because as an association, ECCA doesn't know what the forums need unless the forums tell us. And that's why on the committee there are representatives of each of the major forums out there whose job is to ask the questions and then relate that back to the organisation. I think a lot of people misunderstood the concept of the forum rep previously, being that they represented ECCA within the forums, and that wasn't the case. What they do is represent the forums within ECCA.
Yes. You know? And there is a subtle distinction between the two, of course. So in fact that the forum reps are there to represent the forums and carry forth what the forums want doing, what the people on the forums want doing. Now, I know that there was a little bit of confusion about who the various forum reps are because we got name and initial, and there's at least two people here thought that Jim M was somebody different from who he is. So I, for one, would be very grateful if either of you, either Rolly or Sam, could run through who the forum reps are for each one, and then everybody knows who they need to be talking to.
So
I'll take that. First of all, we've got no forum rep for ECF as it stands. For All About, we've got Jemima. For UKV, that's your Jim M, that's Acoustic Village. And for ECR, we've got Fiona Dothwaite again.
Okay.
VN, did you mention VN then? Vapors Network.
Oh, VN, that's Dave, West Coast.
West Coast, yeah.
All right. So that's a little bit of continuity there. So Fiona and Dave carry on from the steering committee.
Yes.
Good. Now, what's going to be kind of the first order of business then? Because, I mean, I totally missed, obviously, the whole of Vape Fest for reasons which might be more obvious tomorrow, 5 minutes worth of. Fill me in. Tell me what happened and what's going to be happening over the next 3 months, say, please. Rolly, I'll start with you on that one.
Okay, well, at an AGM, as you know, and that was quite interesting to see what would happen with that. To be quite honest, we haven't had a lot of support in terms of practical help from forum members, so we didn't really know what was going to happen at the AGM, how many people would turn up, but in the end we had a quorum, we had a room full of people, so that was enough to get it going. We ran through the agenda, normal sort of thing for an AGM, reports on what's been done, election of new officers, discussion of achievements, and then quite a good debate on what we need to be looking at in the future and what people wanted us to do.
Right, good. Now, I'm going to throw this next bit at Sam to carry on from there if you can, because your video is frozen and it's already been said you're a brilliant ventriloquist. So if you could just restart your camera. I'm sorry. There's always somebody who's going to come in and lighten the atmosphere in here, and that one is going down to Del Boy. Corner. So, Sam, yes, what have you got tucked up your sleeve ready to go?
Well, what we're proposing to happen is that now the committee is in full force and working. The projects that we already discussed regarding flyers from the vendors and so on, and information leaflets for institutions like the police force, who will need to know what an electronic cigarette is and the legality of it in case internally they don't know. Each of these projects are going to have their own groups allocated to them, with essentially their own manager of that group to get each of those projects off and running, which means we can have more than one project running at the same time, and then at each committee meeting we can then report back on what has been done, what needs to be done. And I think that's the best way forward, and we really need the forum's help with that. These miniature groups will effectively be made of members of the forum. So a forum will suggest or propose a project to ECCA, and they will hopefully help create it and bring it to fruition.
Okay, that sounds absolutely fair enough. Now, I'll throw it to you, Sav. I did say one or two questions were coming up there. Is there anything that fits in with where we are at the minute?
Yes, there's a question that came in from Raw Veg, who's wanting to know, has ECCA yet formally decided to focus their efforts in the majority as a consumer association, or will it continue to divide its time between consumer and political issues?
Can I take that?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
I'm sorry that my video appears to have been frozen, but it is me talking.
Like I say, I mean, the picture is actually a good picture, so we'll bear with it.
Yeah, okay. ECCA has got one job to do, and that is to promote consumers' rights, promote the rights of e-cigarette users. Okay, and if you want to look at how that should be done or could be done, you'd find that would break down into three important parts. The first, or one of those parts, is to provide the correct information to people who need to know. And that would be the media, researchers, government authorities, government bodies, people of that type. So we, police, as Sam mentioned, we need to do a leaflet for them, leaflet for doctors, medical professionals, information for them. So that's one thing we have to do, provide the correct information, and especially to counter all the propaganda that comes out. Another part of what we should be doing is consumer affairs, looking at problems that consumers have, liaising with vendors or vendors associations and trying to sort out those issues, perhaps sorting out issues as they arise, or perhaps trying to formulate methods that or directions that will improve the deal for consumers in the future. For example, it's been suggested that we should have an approval system for vendors, or a seal of approval they can put on their websites. We would probably want to look at resolving consumer issues, complaints, for example, if people come to us with those. And we probably need to look at the sort of things that we should try to ask vendors to do in the future to improve the service that they offer. So that's the consumer affairs side of it. That's obviously going to an important part of it. And the third thing is politics. It's impossible to get away from that, especially in the situation we are in the UK. Now, on Saturday, I'd sometimes got the feeling that I was attending the British Association of Optimists convention, because everybody was extremely optimistic about the political situation. Because I'm a pessimist, I don't tend to share that optimism, but I guess it's my job not to do so. It's my job to try and look at the worst case scenario. And to be honest, I think the worst threat is the European situation, because if they do modify the EU tobacco directive to include e-cigarettes, then quite honestly we're sunk. Good question. What can we do about it? Well, nothing if people want to be apathetic, but it all depends on whether you're an optimist or a pessimist about that situation. So those are three things that we have to do. Those are the three things that we have a charter to look at. Indeed. Information, consumer affairs, and political advocacy. Now, it was very clearly pointed out at the AGM that the members want us to do more in the way of consumer affairs. So because that's been stated very clearly, that's what we'll do. Right.
Now, I know Sam's quite active with ECCA, I believe. Is that right, Sam? You attend a lot of their open meetings?
I've attended a few. For people in the UK, they are pretty late. I think they're 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which turns out around about 2 in the morning. So sometimes I fall asleep. I've actually joined the meeting, but I don't take part because I'm asleep. But I have been at a few, and yes, I mean, they've been fantastic in helping us with certain queries to do with the chemistry involved in the e-liquid and so on, and their broader knowledge of the advocacy side of it, which is important. I mean, because it's a global concern.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because it occurs to me that might be a useful vehicle for ECCA to have kind of open meetings every so often as well. I presume I presume the ECCA ones happen online, because I can't see you jetting across to the States necessarily.
Yes.
So, and we know that the facilities for those exist in a number of different places online. Is that something that ECCA might be following up?
That is something that we want to follow up. Think of them as like open surgeries or open clinics. Just an open forum where members can discuss. There's been several mediums suggested. GoToWebinar is one, but there are other free alternatives such as Meeting Burner. But I think as a committee, we probably have to trial each of those and see which one works and which one is most adequate.
Right. Now, Sav, I hate to do this, but I've just seen something come up from Gary Dibley. I'll let you read that one in.
Yeah. Gary has said, how about a VTTV slot for ECCA?
Now, I'm not against that, and I would be quite happy to make a half-hour or an hour slot available on a monthly or a bi-monthly basis. Would that be of use to ECCA?
Well, that would be of use. It depends how
yeah, once a month sounds good, doesn't it, Sam?
It depends how well it can be integrated, because I myself find it easier talking rather than reading chat, if that makes sense. I think with the first experiences of GoToWebinar were fantastic. You could actually hear what people were saying and you could respond almost instantly, and people had the chance to actually speak, not have to worry about typing things in.
Yes.
So I don't know how. We'd probably have to discuss that with you, Dave, about maybe using Stickcam. Have come up with the groups thing where you can have up to 12 screens and have that in one stream, as it were. The logistics of that I don't know yet, but we would have to discuss.
I'm here to tell you that Stickcam is terrible. The video quality on it is shocking. It's just not good. I mean, so far, touch wood, live stream, this is the first time it's played silly buggers with us, and that might have been my fault, I don't know, but Stickcam is just a dog to work with. I was just thinking in terms, and I don't know what Gary's got in mind. Actually, it would be useful, Mr. Dibley, if you could clatter in what it is you have in mind. I mean, as a one-directional conduit, a kind of a reportage of what's been going on, I suppose it could be very useful. But, you know, I mean, that's there. We can discuss that. Let's just say the offer's there. I can make a slot available. If that's what you want, then VTTV's right behind you. So, yes, if it's wanted, we'll sort it out.
Right. A chatter asking me to bring up a point that Tim made regarding something that was said earlier.
Right.
And he's saying pessimism is fair enough, but being overly pessimistic will only discourage the uptake of vaping. Why bother starting if it's going to be banned? ECCA needs to take an objective stance.
I'll throw that one at Rowley.
Yeah, I can see that point of view, but I don't think most people who convert to vaping are particularly worried about the political aspects. It's just that somebody somewhere needs to be working on it, and it just happens to be me, because I kind of like that side of it. So, I mean, the only reason that there's a whole lot of it on the website is because nobody else has provided me with materials, and that's my game. So that's what's up there. Now, if the guys want to come up, you know, do more work on the consumer affairs side of it, and give us material to put on the website, and if the people on the forums want to contribute in some way to help that effort, then for sure, you know, that's what the ECCA website will look like. It will look like a consumer affairs website, but somebody somewhere needs to create the content. And I tell you now, it is not easy creating website content. You might think it looks easy, but it ain't. But it does need people to do that work.
Yes, I can agree with you there. It's not. I think just trying to sum up where it's at, because I know exactly what you mean about the political side and the pessimism side and the worst scenario side, because both of us have been involved in campaigns on other subjects earlier on. Somebody somewhere's privately pessimistic, although on the surface you remain optimistic, but you've got to be prepared to take on the battles that are there. Because they are slippery customers, those people in Whitehall. And you
I think
never,
I think you're right, Dave. What we need to do is effectively prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
yes,
You know?
yes, exactly right. Be prepared for the worst. It's like not taking a knife into a gunfight. You're taking two AK-47s and a bazooka if you can, but you're keeping them up your sleeves and up the back of your jacket. That's basically, I think, where you are, isn't it, Rolly?
Yeah, I think if you believe that the pharma industry and the government who are being paid by them are just going to leave us alone, then you're just going to go like a lamb to the slaughter. Those people have got millions and millions, and they are determined to stamp e-cigarettes out. One way or another, their influence will be felt. Now, if it happens that the pro e-cig voices in government are stronger, then great. Very good, but I think it would be extremely foolish just to hope for the best and do nothing. So somebody needs to be looking at that, and it just happens to fall on my shoulders. So that's what I'm going to do, and I certainly don't want to force that onto anybody else or everybody else. All I'm saying is that because that's what I've been working on, that's what I've put on the website. So you need to see what we're doing, and I sure have been working on that kind of stuff. So I'm just showing you the stuff that I've been up to. But as I say, you know, we have got other roles to play, information, and there's a huge amount of that should go out there, and consumer affairs, and we do need to make that more of the public face of ECCA. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I think actually there's been some questions that would fit in on the back of that. Sav?
Sorry, I was just trying to copy paste there. I've got a few questions that are sort of coming in that are coinciding with things that weren't dealt with last week, that people are wanting to... They're wanting to know if ECCA is going to be purely UK-based, or are there plans to extend to the rest of the EU? And a question again that came from last week was how far-reaching is ECCA? Will they intervene with non-UK vendors and modder issues?
Yeah, well, if I can take that. Well, the only way we can cope with it is if we restrict ourselves to the UK, and that's where our efforts need to be focused. We haven't got the people, we haven't got the power, any of the resources to deal with anything bigger than UK. At the moment, we're kind of for pro and con and arguing backwards and forwards on whether we should include Ireland. And if the Republic of Ireland, Southern Ireland, if reps came from there and said, look, we want to tag along with you, can you make it UK and Ireland, then there's probably going to be agreement from ECCA, from the members and from the committee, that we should do that. But there has been, we've been talking with one or two people from there, but they really need to present their case stronger and come more in force, because we can't just go ahead and call it UK and Ireland and without big support from them, because that would just be rolling that way too strongly. Yeah, so we have to just look at the UK issues. Every country in Europe needs to get their own association together in order to handle their own affairs and to try and come together to exert some kind of pressure on Europe. So you've got associations in Holland, one's just started in Germany, and all the EU countries need to do their own thing. We are going to accept members from other countries, but I think that their voting rights would be restricted, because this is going to be mainly UK-centric. I think people could understand that.
Yes. Are there any add-ons to that?
I'm just checking. Sorry, we're having problems with cutting and pasting today, so it's getting a bit hectic.
I don't know if you want to, Dave, I don't know if you want to disconnect me and reconnect, see if you can get a video.
I'll do what I can. I'll hang you up and try and call you back in. That's interesting. Oh, Lord. Roy, if you're watching the replay, dial back in. Call. There we go. Let's see if we can do it that way. Everybody gets to see the behind-the-scenes secrets now.
Yeah.
Are you moving?
Well, I'm here.
His eyes are moving. He's moving. Rolly's here.
He's moving, yes.
Welcome back.
I don't know if you're there.
Well, I'm here. Well, I'm not all there.
Are you really there?
I'm not all there at all, no. The brain is still not fully functional. Perhaps I had too much nicotine over the weekend, or perhaps it was too much booze. I don't know. So, right, where were we? We were talking about, yeah, it's all moving. It's lovely, Chris, lovely. So, we were talking, basically, I mean, I assume that ECCA will be working hand in glove with the likes of the Dutch and the German organisations and the EU organisations, and that there's some form of communication between them.
Yeah, that's a bit of delay on my video there. I was doing that thumbs up a while back. Okay, yeah, we speaking to the Dutch guys because they were actually semi-formed before us. They had a website up before us, but they had, due to the laws in their country, they had to incorporate it legally before they're actually allowed to do anything, apparently, over there. So, yeah, and their chairman's a member of ECCA in order to keep in touch on the forum and so on. So, yeah, it's, to me, that's a big thing, as you can imagine, as you can guess. I would very much like to see every country in Europe with a strong consumer association, and that we come together to form an EU e-cigarette owners association or whatever. That's, to me, that's the way forward. And then a world association, so that we have a unified voice. Otherwise, if you don't have strength, all right, there's no peace without strength. All right, this country, the UK, enjoys a very peaceful situation, and that's because it's strong. You know, there's no peace without strength, and I think we're going to find the same with e-cigarette owners. You know, you have to have a voice, and a big voice, otherwise you get trampled on by everybody else. Yes,
I think you're probably right there. It's strength in numbers. And I assume that we need to see more people signing up to ECCA.
I think you're right, Dave, but it's also active strength in numbers. It's all very well feeling a certain way, but it's the taking action of it that is important as well. If you look back to the smoking ban, the reason that happened is because no one took action. You know, everybody felt miffed that it was happening, but no one actually stood up and said no. You know?
Yes. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. If the smoking ban had come in on January the 1st, I don't think people would have been quite as keen to kowtow to it, because it would have been bloody freezing outside and folks would have said, sod it. We had a fag at 5 to 12, we're having one at 5 past, buggy you.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, I mean, if history was in our favour and Honlick had designed the electronic cigarette a little earlier, maybe vaping would be a lot bigger than it is now, you know? But this is all hearsay, you know?
Yes. Well, it is growing quickly. Well, I did see earlier on, I think somebody made reference to being able to register on the ECCA site. Have you got that question there, Sal?
Yes, Jeffers has been having problems actually registering on the site. He says he's been trying for a while and he hasn't had a confirmation email.
Okay, well, what we can do is delete that account if he starts again. But that's quite rare. I mean, that's the first one I've heard. So it sounds like there's some issue there with the email, perhaps in some way the email communication. But that's the first one we've had of those.
I won't ask him directly in the chat, but is Jeffers using a free email service, perhaps like Yahoo or Hotmail, which might cause a problem? I don't know.
I think that's... I mean, technical problems like that happen all the time. But yeah, if you're aware of it, and I don't know whether he'll have signed up as Jeffers or what, but...
If he wants to email us, info@eccauk.org, sort it out.
That's probably the best
Rolly, you can go through the back door. You can go through the back door, Rolly, can't you, and just set up an account and send him the login details, can't you?
Yeah, yeah. It's simpler if he emails us, because then I've got a record of his username and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and it'd be better that way.
Yeah, do you want to read that email address out again? Oh, it looks as though he's going to PM Cat.
Yeah, he said he's going to contact Kat with these details, so we'll get him sorted.
And Cat will forward that
We'll
on
sort
to
it
you,
out.
and we'll get it sorted that way.
But like Sam was saying, what it comes down to in the end is not people suggesting things to do or criticising us because we haven't done something. What it's down to in the end is people stepping up to the plate, volunteering to help. For example, say we prioritise for doing an info campaign, and get a flyer out for doctors, for example, for medical professionals. I believe that's something that we should do, so you can, your local doctor's got some reliable information on e-cigz. So, okay, we print 5,000 or 10,000 A5 or A4 flyers. Then what are we going to do then? You know, who's gonna write it, print it, who's going to mail it or distribute it? This can't be done by the number of people that we've got on the committee. It needs the e-cigz users, the members, to come forward and say, well, look, I can help with this, or I can do that, or why don't we distribute like this? Or it needs a fair degree of volunteering from the membership. Otherwise, we can't get anything done.
Well, what I would like to see done is, I don't know how many people are religious here, but within the church there's a function called a parish drop, where members sign up and say, yeah, I'll deliver that to streets A, B, and C, and so on, or to this postcode. What would be good is if people would volunteer. Once a leaflet, say for the police, is developed and ready for printing, if people would volunteer and say, yeah, send me some and I'll take that to my local station, you know?
Yeah. Just while we were chatting that through, it occurred to me that the forums could be of use here with the forum reps. Would it be an idea, do you think, if they're set up, I don't know what you would call it, but like an ECCA volunteer service, EVS, if you like, where folks would volunteer to do distribution in local areas, because the forums reach far and wide up and down the country. And I'm sure it would be a fairly simple matter then for each of the forum reps to get a little team, a street team, the ECCA street team for their forum, and perhaps get them kind of out on the foot, out on the ground, you know, doing that kind of thing. Is that a possibility?
Sounds good. Yeah,
I would love that to happen. That would be fantastic. But again, we need volunteers.
Well, yeah, I think something like that would need to be done on a large scale by mailing, but you can never get to all the people that you want to, and so you would probably know in your area additional people to register doctors, additional that you could deliver to, such as health services that don't appear on a mailing list that we create, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, volunteering's really the only way you get anything done.
Well, I mean, the other way is to have the PDF of the document available online, so interested parties can either print them out and, you know, obviously at their own cost, and deliver them themselves, or take that URL of where that PDF resides and inform the doctor or the policeman of its existence, so they can then see it online and print it out if necessary themselves.
Indeed. And Sav, I'm sorry for doing this, but I've actually, for the first time in a long time, I'm able to read chat. And Gary Dibley has just said, put out a quest for them now, guys. There's 132 viewers on this channel now. Somebody's bound to be willing. Now, I'm gonna make the request for anybody that's viewing tonight, because it directly affects me, because I'm a big user of e-cigz, and I feel that I need ECCA to be successful. I'm going to ask you, the viewers that are out there now, please, if you think you can help ECCA in any way, shape or form, will you please get in touch with either Sam or Rolly or your forum rep and offer your services in whatever way it happens to be. It could be anything. It could be media training, it could be creating graphics, it could be creating content for the website, it could be anything. And I think Rolly and Sam now, make a request for what you want off people. Be specific about it. Say what you need. There's bound to be somebody that's watching the show now and will be over the next week that can help out. Chances now.
Okay, I'll start with that first of all. As vapors, we're a diverse bunch. We have different jobs and different skill sets. And if there's anybody watching now or in the replay that perhaps has volunteered at the Citizens Advice and knows a bit more about that, please get in contact. If you happen to work in commercial law or copyright law, please get in contact, and offer your services. Even if you don't think that you have any necessary skills that would help, believe me, you do. Get in contact and offer your help, because it will be much appreciated.
Yeah, that's true. What we need is boots on the ground. I think the best thing that people can do is contact their forum rep. So just in case you missed out earlier on the list of who the forum reps are, UKV, it's Acoustic Village, ECR, Fiona, All About e-cigz, Jemima, Vapors Network, West Coast, ECF, Rowley. So do get in touch with those people. If you can help in any way, ask them to put you on a list for the future projects that come up, because we have got a lot of things in discussion, but we just cannot do them without the boots on the ground.
Also, in the chat, Rusty has mentioned that CAMVIP and ECCA will be working closely together, because effectively we're tackling the same problem. And Rusty's stay-in nights, if there is one in your area, please support it. And if there isn't one in your area, host one,
Well, yes, I mean, on the 12th of November, we're having a knees up, the North East Electronic Smokers meet-up at the OK Diner on the A19. If you're local, if you're not local, if you want to travel, get along. We're going to kick off at around about 6 o'clock, but I'm going to check on the ECCA website and see if there's a PDF there that I can download and print out and give a copy to everybody that comes through the door, so that they're aware that it's there, and that e-smokers, vapors, whatever you want to call them in the UK, have a voice. And just let's get people together on this. I think it's quite important. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing the shows, I've got to tell you. So yeah, I mean, wherever people can help, please, please, please do. And actually, there was something we were chatting about just before we came on air. Is it Candav that posed a point there?
Yes, I was just about to bring that up about the name changes.
Yes.
Do you want me to read what the discussion was in the chat room?
If you would, please.
Right, Kandov said it should start by changing the name from e-cigz to personal vaporizers as such, which was answered by Raw Veg, who says, I don't agree, you search for personal vaporizers and most of the stuff you find is related to the consumption of other substances, but this is an argument frequently debated.
Well, the thing is, the term e-cig, the term electronic cigarette, we're not going to get away with it. Effectively, it's become a meme. It's become part of the vocabulary. We can try and rebrand it, which we were talking about earlier, about rebranding the term mod, because a silver bullet is not a mod. A GGTS is not a mod. This is a designer item. It's a luxury item. It's very, very well made and very, very expensive. And in some respects, the term mod doesn't do it justice. And even your Gary Dibley box mods, it is a mod, but it's very well made. It won't blow up in your hand, and I know I'm safe using it. Is it a mod? No, because he's actually made it from parts.
It's made from scratch.
Yeah.
It's not a torch that's had the end chopped off and an atomizer glued in. That's a mod.
Which is where the term mod comes from, a modification of something else.
Yes.
It's not.
So can I just comment on that
you can.
name?
You can.
Yeah. As was said, that's kicked around again and again and again, and it's absolutely true that we'd be better off with a name that isn't related to cigarettes, but the trouble is we're stuck with it now. And if you look at the effects of it, we're very easily found on the web because of that, because people know what to search for. If you change the name, we'd become invisible on the web. Now, ECCA is Google number 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5, I think, when I last looked, for e-cigarette consumer association. Okay, you'd think the American group would be ahead of us because, quite frankly, they're a lot bigger. They've got much better resources. But they chose not to prioritize for e-cigs. They chose to cover all the alternatives. So because of that, we've got media from all around the world and researchers calling us. So that's why they can find us, because they search for e-cigarette in the name and e-cigarette consumer association. So we've given the information to a lot of stuff that's actually been published in America because they found us first. You've got the Wall Street Journal. We had a lot of input to the big article they did on e-cigarettes. Same for the New York Magazine that's just come out. That information came from us. Euromonitor, a monster commercial data research, market research organization. They sell their reports to the industry for £5,000, £6,000 a pop. They got our information from us. The latest research being done by the EU to gather statistics for this tobacco directive. It's being done by Matrix Research, a firm, something like that. They came to us because they found us easily, because we're Google number 1, 2, 3 for e-cigarette consumer association. So if you take that away,
I would like to just point out that yes, we don't rank for ECCA yet because there are other organisations called ECCA. But if you put in ECCA UK, yes, we are found. I'm working on that. I'm doing a bit of search engine optimization in the back end to rectify that problem. But it takes time. Even if you have something in motion, it takes time for search engines to crawl. Sometimes days, weeks, maybe a month.
Indeed, I can well see the situation though if a researcher is searching on electronic cigarettes or e-cigs and they want to find a consumer association, they'll type it in full and not just the initials.
Well, the thing is, because they don't know what the consumer association is called, they won't be searching for ECCA, will they? They'll be searching for the keywords associated with that, which is e-cig, which is electronic cigarette, which is vaping. I don't know how we rank for vaping, but the thing is that's a cosmetic issue that we can work on. What we really need to do is get a robust association working with the forums and also targeting those electronic cigarette users that aren't on the forums, because I don't have a most recent count, but it was mentioned at the AGM that the numbers have risen drastically, and that's thanks to companies like 10 Motives and IntelliCig, the brands that are selling to the public, not online. Actually, they're generating footfall, they're generating consumers, and these people don't access the forums, and it's these people that need to be aware of a consumer association as well. I mean, it has been mentioned that the Sale of Goods Act will more than adequately protect you as a consumer, and the Poisons Act. But the problem is 90%, which is a made-up statistic, but 90% of the consumers have not read the Sale of Goods Act, and they don't know the Poisons Act. What ECCA needs to do is really know those documents, filter it down to the essence of what an electronic cigarette user needs to know, and have that available. They don't need to know the whole document with a fine-tooth comb. They just need to know the essence of what they need to know.
Yes, I mean, it seems to me that there's an awful lot of work ahead for ECCA in all kinds of different areas. And just looking at the number of people that are reported as being officers from the list that I saw from the AGM, you're obviously going to need more people, more bums on seats, more feet on the ground, as you keep saying, Rolly, to get the message out there. And perhaps, you know, we were talking about the ticky list, the checklist of some form of approbation, shall we say, some kind of badge for vendors. And it seems to me that it's probably not a bad idea to target 10 motives and Nicolites and E-lights and the people that are out there and already, you know, in multiple locations, to get them as far as possible approved and hopefully putting an ECCA stamp on their packaging.
That is something else we've started to discuss. I think we touched upon it last week, Dave. The code of conduct.
Yes.
We're still kind of humming and hawing about what that involves. And again, you know, it has been mentioned that the Sale of Goods Act covers quite a lot of that. But there are some specific things that are, you know, that are only exist within the electronic cigarette and the vaping pastime that aren't covered by that, like the flavourings in juice and the transparency of where the product's from. The nature of the electronic cigarette is it is manufactured in bulk, and there will be problems with products from time to time. You'll buy a pack of 5 Atties or atomizers, one might not work, and it's the customer service of the vendor that shows how good the vendor is. How quickly can they resolve that issue, you know, and that perhaps that's something that should go into the code of conduct. If a problem does arise,
yeah,
what is an acceptable time for a vendor to rectify that problem?
Yeah, Jeffers has just chimed in with something there that's germane to this. Can you give us that one, Sav?
Yeah, Jeffers says, so are you saying that we should just sit back and let ECCA decide what we should or shouldn't expect from our vendors that are not approved by ECCA?
No. ECCA is the forums. ECCA is the vaping community, and our code of conduct will be created by you and me and Rolly and Dave. It's a community effort. It's in a sense, you know, when you've had something wrong being sent to you, and the vendor has done everything in his power to rectify that situation. So even though something went wrong, you went back to that vendor, even though you had a problem. Why did you go back to that vendor? Because of the great customer service, you know, because they care about the community and they care about you. Obviously they care about the money they're making from you, but they actually, I don't know of any reputable electronic cigarette supplier that doesn't themselves vape, and they are part of the community, and they're the ones we support. It's the fly-by-nighters that come into the niche, if you want to call it that.
I think what Jeffers is getting at is who decides what constitutes an approvable vendor, who actually gets to, if you like, decide what the ticky boxes are, and then who would then if you like, audit the vendor to tick those boxes. And I think I'm probably right in saying that that's for the membership to decide, that the committee would come up with a proposed set of criteria, publish those, have the forums discuss them, get the forum reps come back and say, well, yes, points 1 through 9 are fine, point 10 we're not so sure about, 11 and 12 there's no way my lot are going to accept it, and 13 to 15 are fine. Is that the kind of situation that you envisage?
I think what I envisage, what I see happening is the other way round. It's the forums that we will be asking what the code of conduct should contain, and they will be proposed. And then that will go to committee, and we'll either approve them to go forward to the next step, but then it will go back to the forums and say, this is what we've decided. Do you agree with that? And then that's how the tweaking will happen. Because at the heart of it, it's got to be a community thing. If it's not a community thing, it will fail.
Right. So it's decided by the membership, it's at the behest of the membership, and it's for the membership that any approval of vendors or an ECCA stamp would be given basically to people that the community, the vaping community, approves of. Is if I'm reading what you're saying, that seems to be what you're saying to me, which I think might put a few minds at rest. I mean, this is not something that's going to come from the Kremlin. You know, the ECCA Kremlin's not going to decide it and enforce it on everybody. There'll be a touch more democracy than that.
We've got enough on our plate, really, you know, with things that are happening here and there, without creating like work just because we think it would be fun to do it. What I think what we need to do is two things. We need to have something like an ECCA seal of approval for vendors, an approved vendor, and we need to have some sort of procedure available whereby if members have a problem with a vendor, then we could assist or mediate in that dispute. That's probably what's needed. So at the end of the day, what goes into that approval system is going to be decided by the forum members through their forum reps and kicking it around on the committee. You know, I mean, we're presumably we would only decide to go with things that are seen to be reasonable requests and in normal terms of doing business. And it doesn't actually seem at the moment as if there are major problems and disputes that ECCA would need to get involved with. In fact, today was the first time that I've actually seen a request made to ECCA on a consumer affair, which was good, a good thing to see. Somebody asked, why is it that some vendors don't have a secure connection on their website for people creating accounts? In other words, when you fill in your personal details to create an account with a vendor, why is it that some of them don't do that on HTTPS and it's on an open connection which could be intercepted by third parties? And I think that's an excellent question, and something that we do need to ask the vendors to sort out. So there you go, is point number one.
Yes, I mean, I've got to say, again, this is a bit of a first for me to actually be able to read the chat while one of these shows is going on. It sparked a lot of discussion in there, I think I'm right in saying, Sav?
Yes.
And there's some really good points being made. And I will say to Steve Mack, thank you so much for the comment about the paddy puff. ECCA wasn't around when we discovered that was definitely under the armpit, not in the sense that it is now. But yeah, I mean, as a group of I'll call us journalists for want of a better phrase, we would feed back to ECCA, obviously we would. But I see Gary Dibley's brought up a really good point there as well.
Gary's brought up two very good points. I'll just combine them. First of all, he says, how will ECCA enforce this? Are you working with ECCA to get a common ground of approval? And as ECCA is a paid-for membership, will ECCA be the seal of approval for consumers?
Can I stick my desire onto that before I throw that at Rolly and Sam?
Feel free.
I would, and this is in no way meant to be a slight at ECCA, but I would put more faith in an ECCA seal of approval than I would in an ECCA one.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a sense, you're right, Dave, because a vendor, no matter how reputable they are, it will be seen as a hidden agenda, you know. But again, the seal of approval has to be discussed. It has to be formulated. It has to be decided what that seal of approval entails. Is it purely from a consumer point of view? Is it just to do with dodgy devices, or is it more to do with transparency? Or should we have two codes of conduct? One to do with the transparency of source and origin of your products. You know, it's like if you sell a 901, call it a 901. Don't call it anything else. It's a 901. You know, and flavors. I mean, if you sell Decang, say it's Decang. If it's Hansing, say it's Hansing. You know, no one's gonna chastise you for admitting where you get your stuff from, because most of the community, online at least, know where it's from. I understand the white label concept within supermarkets, where Weetabix actually make is it Wheat Bix that you'll get in an Asda supermarket? It's the same product, just with a different box. But with e-juice, I think at some point there will almost be a point where you'll want to say that you sell Decang, you'll want to say that you sell Hansing, you'll want to declare what type of nicotine is in your liquid and where it's sourced from, because it's such a young pastime that we don't know if different sources of nicotine have different flavor characteristics. There's so much we don't know yet, and it's a huge subject, and it could be the topic of a whole show in itself. But eventually, there might be a point where, like with wines, you've got your Shiraz and you've got your Merlot and stuff, and they're grapes. At the end of the day, they're grapes, but it's to do with where they're grown, what climate, what soil they're grown in. Perhaps these things also have something to do with the flavour of e-liquid. But this is something we don't know yet, because we all used to be smokers, and some of us still are. So our taste buds aren't there yet. We don't have that refined palate to differentiate between two different kinds of nicotine source. But it may very well be the case that they are different in taste. And these things that maybe vendors will want to actually say, yes, this is where we get our nicotine from, yes, because it tastes better or it tastes different.
Absolutely. Now, gentlemen, I'm acutely aware that we're running towards the end of our allotted time. Very, very fast. We've got very little time left, in fact. I'm going to ask the pair of you a favour and ask you if I can bring you back in 2 or 3 weeks' time, perhaps not on a Wednesday night, or perhaps an hour earlier before another VT talk, because what I'm getting from the chat room, and Sav will back me up on this one, is there's an awful lot of interest in what we've been talking about tonight. People have been chatting about it. The chat in the chat room has been all about what we've been talking about, and I think there is a great deal of interest in this happening a little more regularly. And if that's the case, would you two be amenable to coming back on, either together or singly, either way?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Well, that being the case, I mean, we'll get together and sort it out. And try and make this quite a regular event if we can, because I hope it's useful for you two as kind of the linchpins of ECCA. And, given the numbers that we've had watching the show tonight and the numbers I expect on replay, I think this could end up being a very useful resource, not just for the viewers, but for ECCA and, getting everything together. So if we can do that, I would love to, but I've got to wind the show up now and say thank you to Rolly Gate and to Sam Munroe for coming on the show tonight. I need to remind everybody what's coming up. I'm not going to play the trailers in because we don't have time. Tomorrow night we've got the Haze Hour with yours truly and Keith. If the posties very good and not naughty. There'll be some really exciting stuff to have a look at. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but let's just say it's got me excited. On Friday, I'm well excited because Mighty Mouse is going to be bringing the report from VaporCon in the US, which happened at the same time as Vape Fest, and we really want to. I really want to see that as well. On Saturday, everybody's got a day off, and then we're back in on Sunday with Mr. Kitson. Monday, the Vapor Mists. Tuesday, the Witching Hour, and there's all kinds happening. You can't afford to miss any of these shows. Get in. If you don't see them when they come out live, watch them on the replay on the 24/7 or via the V-Player. But for the moment, can I say thank you to Rolly Gate, head honcho at ECF, and a really nice chap. And I'm just slightly jealous of the beard. And also to Sam Munroe, who was obviously jealous of the beard, mine, and is trying to grow his. Thanks to you two for coming in. Thanks again to Sav for doing her usual brilliant job, and I know it's been trying tonight. And to Kat in the chat room, who's held it all together while we managed to get the elastic band wound up to get the show on the go. So from all four of us, all five of us, thanks to everybody for watching. I'll see you tomorrow night on the Haze Hour, and we'll see you next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock live from Wigan with
Good
Jason
night.
Cropper. Until then, bye-de-byes.
Bye.
Will that be with his GGTS?